Hello, my friends, and welcome. Very nice to have you with us here today. I'm here with my friend Gregg Braden, who's coming to Transition Talks on the 7th of December, just a couple of weeks from when we're recording this. And I thought I'd check in with him here before we head out of town. We're on our way to a little vacation and see how you're doing. How are you, Gregg? How's things?
Well, John, I'm doing really well. I'm excited to be with you. I'm coming from our studio here in Santa Fe today. I'm a very auspicious day, December 7th. I'm going to be in Berkeley Springs. We're going to be there for one very big, very full day. And it's a special week for me. We launched the in-studio media tour for the new book that is titled Pure Human. That book is not physically released until January, but they're doing an in-studio pre-release media tour, and I have to tell you that the content is being received really, really well, and that's what we're going to talk about. The
Yeah,
book.
it's really great. Yeah.
Well,
Go
I'm
ahead.
excited about this program because John, between the time when a book is written and when it's actually released, a lot of new information can surface, and that's
Oh, yeah.
precisely what has happened here. The book is actually it's two parallel themes. It is the obvious and concerted effort to replace our biology, to remake the world, and to remake our bodies
Yeah.
within the next 5 years, to replace our biology with technology. That's one part of the information. That's the context. And then the other side of that, John, the new discoveries that are coming so fast and furious regarding the human body and our potential are telling us that the very technology that we want to replace our biology with, we already do. We mimic, in many cases, we meet and exceed the capacity of the technology that is being proposed to replace our bodies. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
Great.
when you bring these things together, it's very clear this is no accident. It's not an accident that we have the potential and the capabilities that we do. And
This is this is a really big deal, Gregg. I mean, as
yeah,
you very well understand, we're in the crux in the middle of just an amazing transition that really is not ever experienced we've ever experienced before on this planet, certainly in recorded history. And so to be able to outline where we're going here is really quite important, and in practical terms starts to give all of us and all of those that will be part of this event an Im- a content, image, a scenario. I mean, in my business, we call them scenarios, but a picture, a contextual architecture, a framework from which to anticipate what in the world is going on. Otherwise, you watch these things on a day-to-day basis and you've got no idea about what's happening.
well, it's true, John. And one of the things I've found as I'm doing this media tour, there is an openness, there's a willingness to hear the information, but there is a sense that we've got all the time in the world to make the changes and to embrace this information, and that the technological changes we're talking about are like way down the road, way in our
Yeah.
future. What is very clear right now, we've got within the next 5 years, this is almost 2025, and by the year 2030, that is the convergence of the efforts from the WEF, from the United Nations, from the WHO, and all these organizations, not just to remake the world around us. And this is important. We've always had the ability to change the world around us, sometimes in good ways, sometimes in not so good ways. But for the first time, John, we've got the technology to re-engineer the world within us. They're literally using the language. They're saying the human body is hackable
Mm.
information, and that they believe they have what is called the right, for WRITE, the right permission. This is programmer's language to reprogram the codes of life. And the proposals are to have these changes implemented by the year 2030. Ray Kurzweil just released a book in
Mm.
this year. This is 2024, entitled The Singularity. And what he's saying is by the year 2030, when we meet someone on the street, we will be speaking to someone that is a human machine hybrid of some degree. And by the year 2045, we will all be enfolded into this digital matrix, the internet of all things, where every facet of existence, I'm talking about
Yeah.
the forests in Brazil and Africa, the wildlife that exists there, all of our natural resources, the food that we eat, the energy that we expend, the human bodies, all of our biometrics, all of our heart rate variability, I mean, all of this will be part of this digital matrix by the year 2045, unless we change the way we think. And so people say, well, what's the big deal? Why wouldn't we want that? I've had people say this to me. And what they don't realize, John, is that when we relinquish our natural biology, we give our biology away to technology. It's not like a little switch where you can say, hey, let's try this for a year. If it doesn't work, we'll go back. The way the human body functions is we adapt and morph to those changes. And once we give away our immune response to chemicals, for example, or our reproductive capabilities to gene editing and gene engineering and intervention, genetic intervention, once we give away our ability to think critically,
Yeah.
all of these things, those systems begin to atrophy in our bodies. And once they're gone, it's very, very difficult, if it's even possible, to get those back. This is how you lose a species.
Well,
And
exactly. Yeah. Well, who's
well, and
doing
the
it?
the interesting
Yeah.
thing is it's not spontaneous, it's not by accident. This is by design. And
Well,
in this,
who's doing it? Who's
yeah,
doing it?
well, in this program, I want to talk about that because these are, like I said, we're going to do things in Berkeley Springs that I could not do in the book, uh, because of the kind of book that it is, but the
Right. Sure.
context within which we are being led to believe that we are powerless victims of a world that we have no control over. The title of this program, and I wrote this so I get it right, it's Pure Human: From the Limits of Fear to the Power of Destiny. This is where we're going to target in Berkeley Springs, because it is our destiny
Yeah.
to live the freedom and the sovereignty that comes from the extraordinary human potential that is being denied to us right now. And that's exciting when we begin to see some of the experiments. I'm just going to share one experiment. Can I share an experiment?
Sure. Please. Yes.
And then I'll show the details. This is 2002, no, 2022. So it's relatively recent. Scientists took a neuron, a human neuron, without any person attached to the neuron. And they kept that neuron alive in a petri dish, and they constructed a special chip so that
Hmm.
the dendrites of the neuron
Yeah.
could be connected to the ports in the chip. So now you've got a chip neuron interface. They put that chip into a computer that was loaded with the 1972 digital game called Pong, one of the
All
most
right.
one
Sure.
of the first digital game that came out, the primitive game. And to the amazement of the audiences that I share this with, that neuron began playing the game of Pong successfully. And the longer it played, the better it got. It was learning from its experience. Now, this is a mind blower to the scientists, because now they're asking the question, where does the information to play Pong live? Does it live inside of the neuron? The answer is no. The neuron is a biological antenna. It's a resonator that tunes to the place in the field that underlies all existence where Pong lives. This is a powerful experiment because our bodies, our neurons, and beyond that, our cell membranes, our DNA are the biological resonators that tune to the place in the field where our potential lives, our creativity, imagination, our ability to heal. This is where healing begins, love, forgiveness, all of these uniquely human capacities. And we're being encouraged to give those away to the efficiency and the speed of technology, losing the very essence of our humanness. So I'm excited to share that. That's kind of it's a mind blower
Well, this is,
experiment, isn't it?
I know I keep saying this, but this is a really big deal. You kind of, it's easy to kind of go over when you say, well, we're losing our humanity. You know, the phrase goes by and you understand the language, but you don't think about what it means. And so this is a huge, huge, huge thing. This is a, a fundamental redo, a re-engineering, a capturing, if you will, of the essence of the human beings, of the species from the beginning. And it, of course, drives us toward the whole idea of simulations and where you live in and what is all about. I would just very much encourage all of our viewers to participate. I mean, particularly, we're about to sell the place out in physical space in here in Berkeley Springs, but there's plenty of room on live stream, and we'd just love to have everybody with us as we go. This is one of the first talks that you're giving on this subject, right?
It is on from this particular perspective. It is, John, and the book, the physical book, is not released until January. So this is actually we're actually able to talk about some of the contents, and as I said, some of the discoveries that came after the book was submitted. John, the new discoveries. So here's where the shift has happened. In the past, the human body has been linked to biology, and we tend to think of biology as like the sticky, gooey, wet stuff inside the cells that
Yeah,
is
yeah.
somehow subject to flaws and, you know, imperfect. Where the shift has happened, and I saw this beginning during the Cold War years with Russia. Russia was ahead of America in this shift in thinking, is to look at the human body from an IT perspective, information technology. Instead of seeing the cell as a little sack full of
Yeah, yeah.
saline and sticky gooey stuff, they're saying, well, that cell is a gated circuit, number one. It
Sure.
has an electrical potential of about 0.07 volts. But then they began to look deeper, and they found that every cell has the equivalent of a transistor, of a resistor, of a capacitor that we
Yeah.
receive and we communicate, we transmit photons of light. Well, light is information. So we are transmitting and receiving information constantly. And then people say, well, why don't we know about this? The reason, the answer, John, is it's not published in biology books. It's published in
Ah,
like IEEE
of
journals.
course.
So here's an example. There's a journal of advanced computing technology. And they now have, and this is an exact quote, they're identifying DNA as, quote, a fractal antenna. So a
Wow.
fractal antenna, what it means is that we are receiving multiple signals across multiple bandwidths simultaneously, not just tuned to one station, but we're picking up
Right.
a lot of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's a whole different way of thinking from an IT perspective. And here's the beauty. You know, you and I talk about this a lot. I worked in the defense industry during the Cold War years, witnessed to some of the most advanced technology at that time the world had ever seen, lasers and radar
Yeah.
systems. Uh, and I have to say, John, one of the things I learned, the more advanced the technology is behind the scenes, the simpler the user interface can become. Our smartphones are a perfect example. You don't even type. You push, you take your finger and you touch a place on a screen and you set into motion, you know, you're paying your bills or you're writing to a
Right,
friend
right.
or listen to music. We work the same way. We are so complex as what is now being called a highly sophisticated, technologically advanced soft technology. Soft technology. Our user interface, the most ancient and cherished of our spiritual traditions. It's thought, feeling, emotion, breath, focus, nutrition, and movement. Those are our user interfaces. So once we began to see that as we use this user interface, that we awaken this sophisticated technology that rivals, and I'll show in
Yeah.
Berkeley Springs, actually exceeds what those physical hard silicon computer chips can do. It's a mind blower, but here's what it does, John. It gives us, number one, the reason to think of ourselves differently. And our thinking is where it all begins. And number two, I have found in my live audiences that it opens the door to a deeper appreciation and actually a pride, being proud of our humanness rather than being ashamed and rather
Yeah.
than denigrating and looking down. It's a renewed sense of pride for who we are and what our capacity is. Once we embrace that, we find less urgency to embrace the external technology into our bodies. We still use it. It's still out there. It's still cool, but we don't need to become that external technology. And I think this is important.
Well, it's an important and an interesting point is to in this essentially what we're doing here is there are two different paths into this future, and one of them is this technocracy, which you described, and the other one, which probably you and I are the only ones that I know of that at least talk about it in those terms, has this capability, this innate capability to duplicate everything that's over on the technology side, but it's a kind of awakening the capability within us and reaching out, and it's the next level of human evolution, essentially, to my way of thinking. The interesting
Yeah.
kind of question in the middle of this is what do you do in the short term? How in this merger where you're still dependent upon the technology, how do you use technology to augment this movement toward a new human and a new world where you can't just walk away from it, because it's such an integral and important part
No,
of who we all are. But so
no.
go ahead.
Yeah, well, I agree, John. We've talked about this a little bit. I think what we're witnessing, and again, these aren't things that are going to happen like 10 years down the road. We're in it. We're in it. And the only way out of this is to go through it. And the hope is that we go through this with a soft landing and that we with grace and with ease by choice. What I'm seeing is two parallel societies. We've talked about this that are emerging. One facet of our society, and it's not always divided in cities. It could be in the same family, the same dinner table.
Oh yeah.
One facet of our society is all in on all the technology. They're saying, yes, put the chips in my body, RFID chips, chemicals in the
Yeah.
blood. I'll take a computer chip in the brain so I can talk to my computer. You're seeing that. And then you're seeing another facet of society that I see personally in the rural communities where I live. When I go to my little co-op, my little grocery food co-op, and I see my neighbors, they don't often have the conversation we're having right now because they're too busy. They're too busy struggling to make ends meet. They're working 2 or 3 jobs. They got kids in school. They're really good people, John. They're salt of the
Sure.
earth, agricultural, construction, these kinds of
Yeah.
things. They don't know everything we're talking about, but here's what they do know. They said the world's changing too fast. We need to slow down. We need to get back to basics. So they're pulling their kids out of public schools so they can
Mhm.
teach the kids their values. They're becoming more reliant as well as sufficient. And those are two different terms. They're both self-reliant and self-sufficient within themselves and within their communities, growing their own food, taking responsibility for their health, their education, uh, because they know we need to get back to basics. My sense is that we're going to find a medium in between. I think we're going to learn to embrace the technology and allow it to direct us without replacing our biology with that technology. AI, perfect example. The AI has been used recently to scour the archives of medicinal plants that have been cataloged from throughout the world to narrow down the chemical compounds that best meet the needs of cancers, the new emerging cancers that have only showed up in the last 3 years. You can read into that, whatever you want. But they're called super cancers. And the AI is helping to find the solutions for that, because it would take humans, hours and days, or many humans, to scour through the books. So the AI can do that really quickly. So technology, once again, it's not good, bad, right, or wrong. It's a thinking underlying the technology and how it's applied, and that's our responsibility. And there is a responsibility that comes with embracing the potential of our humanness. It is a joyous responsibility to embrace the power of what it means to be human. But when we have the power, John, then we no longer living in fear. The fear is the result of feeling powerless in a world where we have no control.
Well, and not having both understanding and capabilities to be able to deal with the situation. And like you find at your co-op here in Berkeley Springs in West Virginia, in our little county, we've just, I helped to kind of facilitate a preparation day a couple of weeks ago. We had 400 people sign up to come on one way or
Wow.
another. We had to live stream the thing. It was kind of like the biggest event that's happened in the community for years, to just systematically go through different scenarios and possibilities and other such things. And so there is this growing awareness and interest uh, in this kind of independence. It really is. On one track, it's kind of dependence, and the other track is independence. And so, how you provide for yourself locally, as well as kind of emotionally and spiritually, and so on, are all part of an integrated kind of plan going off in a new future. And so, I'm excited about what you're talking about here, because these are new ideas for me, and certainly for the folks who will be attending, that they'll find this very, very provocative.
Well, whether they're attending in person or through streaming, John, of course, it wouldn't do any good to talk about this if we couldn't do something in our own lives. So there are a lot of practical applications to recognize the techniques of indoctrination that lead us into the decisions that we're being asked to make. I'm aware of these techniques, and I'm still in awe of how slick the
Yeah.
marketing is, and it's by design. These are experts that are really
Yeah.
good
But
at.
it's not just experts, it's technology. They got giant, amazing computers who are
Yep.
handicapping all of the possibilities and everything. I mean, this is a serious thing that's going on.
It is, and once we understand that we have options, I think it's not about us being angry or wanting revenge or anything like that. It's not about being afraid. It's about, we've all heard that knowledge is power, and lack of knowledge is lack of power. Once we understand the big picture, once we understand where we fit into that big picture, once we understand what our options are, then we have the ability to choose and to
Yeah.
make healthy choices for ourselves and for our families, and that's going to be different for everyone. So we'll lay out the scenario from a systems perspective all the way down to the techniques that we use in our lives. Then, John, typically when I do a program there, we actually invite people to a little dinner after. Is that going to
Oh yeah.
happen? You going to do that again this
We're
year?
gonna have 70 people at dinner. It's gonna be great fun. Yeah.
70 of our closest friends for
Yeah, that's
dinner.
right.
Okay. So, well, I appreciate you. John, you have been such an inspiration to me, and in the way that you have established a hub and the community that you have. And I strive to do something like that in our community. We haven't gotten as far as you have, but I'm certainly inspired by what you do, and I'm always honored to come back to Berkeley Springs and our community there. So thank you.
Well, we're looking forward to having you. By the way, at this preparation day, we gave handheld radios to, ultimately, it'll be 200 families in the county. And so we will have a whole network of communications, and alternative communications
Wow.
network, probably unlike any county in the country, that in the event of some major event, that we can all communicate. But that all comes with, from this ham radio and other kind of
Sure.
electrical engineering background that I have, that interestingly enough is very compatible with the ideas that you're talking about.
Well, now I'm even more inspired. Well,
Well,
this is a one of a kind program. We're not doing this anywhere else in the world, actually. And I'm excited to share this information and to have the experience. And, John, there's just something about being physically in a room with physical humans, eye to
yeah,
eye, mind to mind, heart to heart, where we can not just share the information, but hear what people feel about that
yeah,
information and what it means to them. And I think I'm always happy for the online programs, and there's still something about a physical community that comes together for a full day that
well,
I don't think anything's going to replace that. I'm
yeah,
excited to be there.
it's going to be magic, and it's going
Yeah.
to happen on the 7th of December. Start about 9:30 in the morning and run all day long, and will includes lunch and yeah, and then for 70 lucky people, we get to have all dinner in the evening together, and that's always a great fun. So
Well,
we're
this
really,
is this is this is a new venue for me as well, John. I've never been to this venue. I'm excited about being there.
yeah, it'll be fun. So
All right.
good. Thank you. Nice to talk to you.
Good to see
See you
you.
soon. Take care. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I look forward to seeing everyone there. Thanks, John. Take good care.